当夜觉当
제랑
作业
조제
张南
전남라이
张
장조
卓巴多
바도
达
다니
尼迦苏
겹손제
大
다게
给切切
진제
结别
예배
做那耶
조남제
罗拉
돌아
本
벤제
觉三
상젠도
罗巴拉修三界觉当
인제다
作业
조제
张南
전남라이
张卓
장조
巴多
바도
达尼
다니
迦苏
겹손제
大给
다게
切
진제
切结别
예배
做那
조남제
罗拉
돌아
本
벤제
觉三界
상젠도
罗巴拉修三界 学当
제단
作业
조제
张南
전함라이
来，张就
장조
巴多
바도
达尼
다니
迦苏。
겹손제
大
다게
爷，切
진제
切结别做那
손
耶，罗拉
돌아
本觉
벤제
三，罗
상젠도
巴拉
아이쇼
修，三界当界得我，
대화단
得为
대외
有道，
교단 대반 교제
三界
셈제
当界
담제
东来，
동해단
东
동해
来也
기행
有道，
교단
得我
대반
有解，
교제
三界
셈제
当界
담제
东来
동해
没，
매
得我
대원
当
담제
面得我，
대반 교제
三界
셈제
当界
담제
你来
니래
查那
자다
耶。
니단다
当年把
다념다
那把那
대바라
就
교라
来解，三界当界得我当
대원단
得为
대변
有道，
교단
得我
대반
有。
교제
三
셈제
界当界
담제
东啊当
동해다
东
동해
啊也有道，
교단
得我
대원
有。三界
semje
当界
damje
东啊
dunga
当得
mebe
得我
dewa
当
na
面
me
得我
dewa
有。
yoje
三界
semje
当界
damje
你
nyere
来查
chana
那耶
nyeda
当
da
得。当
anyam
年
la
把那把那
deva
就来解，
yoje
三界当界得我。
dewa da deve yoda
三巴拉
deva
九
yoje
节，三千
semje
当节，
damje
东啊当东啊也
ge
有道，
yoda
这巴拉九，三
semje
千当节，
damje
东啊
dunga
当没
mebe
别的
dewa
话，
da
当
me
没这巴拉
dewa
九，
yoje
三千
semje damje
你
nyere
来查他，
chana
你
nyeda
当
da
这些，当年
anyamla
把那把
nevara
九来接，
yoraji
你刚给点进点都上什么？要不然，
inji dola pyu dola ben
引起头了，
do
可是我这里是通着，是吧？
ah
刚给点进这我人
jong
中，
ga
他
ba
把
me
没
ba
把
ye
也没。
me ba
谁
je
把
ba me
没把
ba da
他没
me
把
ba
我
o wa
把
me
没
ba
把
do
的，
me
他
ta
的
de de
对
me
面
de
对
je
面
nye
面
de
这
ba
把
nye
你
je
写
je
写
de
的
ba
左
zo
边
be san
三
ye
间
ma
没
na
把
ma ram
南
ba
把
de
天
la
了
jo
照
ze
在
lo
面对些我走
Sunama
那回
kunje
些
nyege
那
nyeshe
些真
ndikse
的好人
kanyen
呐，
dan
罗
dola
拉奔波
benpa
见
jeba
了老些。
lamje nyege
一
jiten
边跟
dikdo
着在
zeba
把
kan
刚看
kanda
到阳
yanda
的天边
dembe
土那
tuna
那。
namba ku
滚蛋了，
nazo
把
de
那个
zomba
把年
nyen
的
de
想
jen
就
jo
在
zebe
边说，
soje san ye
今
ge
年用
yonde
这把
la
叉子
chao
路，左边找我那个
Amse
些
je
大
sa je
金
ya
牙
je
结
gu
棍
nga
啊，
wa
我滚
gun do
多，
zang bo yi
我
se
这的
da
大
gu
滚
ne
年
to
找
la
了叉
cha
子
ze
路，
lo
三些北些
Pyoge
这
joje
些
me
面多
do
长
dama
马些拉
la
这
ni
些
je
你
ni
的
de
眼
gen
光。
ban de
三
san
界
ge
心
jin do
多
me
没
de
得
u
无
wa
外
yin
也，找
do
回
gu
那
nam
大
da
些。
xin la
这
ju
把
ba
拉
ra
手，
shu
大忙咕
Guru
噜的
ra
那
na
没
me
得
da
了，
lang tam
你
me
呀
da
大
ya
呀你。
Kishila just recited the in Tibetan. You have an English translation at the back, so we can recite, those three verses in English as well. Until enlightenment, I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha.
By
By
the
the
accumulation
accumulation
of the
of the
practice
practices
of
of
living,
being and so forth, may
may
I
I become
become
a
a
Buddha
Buddha
to
to
benefit
benefit all
all
sentient
sentient beings.
beings.
Until
Until
enlightenment, I go
enlightenment,
for
I go
refuge
for
to the Buddha,
refuge
the
to the
Dharma,
Buddha, the
and the
Dharma, and
Sangha.
the Sangha.
By
By
the
the
accumulation
accumulation
of
of
the
the
practice
practices
of
of
living,
giving and
and
so
so forth,
forth, may
may
I
I
become
become
a
a
Buddha
Buddha
to
to benefit
benefit
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings.
beings.
Until
Until
enlightenment, I go
enlightenment,
for
I
refuge
go
to the
refuge
Buddha,
to
the
the
Dharma,
Buddha, the
and the
Dharma,
Sangha.
and the Sangha.
By the
By the
accumulation
accumulation
of
of the
the practice
practices
of
of
living,
giving and so forth, may
may
I
I become
become
a
a Buddha
Buddha
to
to benefit
benefit.
all sentient beings.
May
May
all
all sentient
sentient
beings
beings be
be
endowed with happiness
happiness
and the
and
causes of
cause of happiness.
happiness.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
be
be
free
free
from
from
suffering
suffering
and
and
the
the
cause of
causes of
suffering.
suffering.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
live
never
now
be
separate
separated from
from
joyful
joyful bliss.
bliss.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
abide
abide in
in
equanimity,
equanimity,
free
free
of
of
vice,
vice,
attachment,
attachment,
and
and
anger.
anger.
May
May
all
all sentient
sentient
beings
beings be
be
endowed
endowed
with
with
happiness
happiness
and the
and the
causes of
cause of happiness.
happiness.
May
May all
all sentient
sentient
beings
beings be
be free
free from
from suffering
suffering
and
and
the
the
cause of
causes of
suffering.
suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of vice, attachment, and anger. May all sentient beings be endowed with happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of vice, attachment, and anger. Inexpressible, inconceivable perfection, wisdom, unreason, never ceasing space, the very essence, the domain of ever-present wisdom, knowing itself completely. I bow to the mother of all victorious ones in all three times. In Tibetan origination, there is no ceasing, no rising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness, and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace, which is free of elaboration. I prostrate to the sublime mother of Buddhas and of the and Bodhisattvas, who through the noble basis leads hearers seeking pacification to complete peace, who through the noble paths causes those who are benefiting migrating beings to achieve the aims of the world, and who through possession of the exalted noble, the subtle was set from the very having all expressed. These ground spread with incense, adorned with strewn flowers, Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine as a Buddha land, and by offering to you, may all living beings enjoy this pure land. Thus, meeting the teacher of the peerless teacher is due to spiritual manifest kindness. I dedicate this virtue for all living beings to be cared for by excellent spiritual friends. Edam Guru Yatna Mandala Kamniya Dayami.
Yeah, da. Ağam karı geldiyse. Okay. Yeah, that thing. Lori share into all of that. Nang pay jungli shebita. Buddhist psychology the
No.
Samari Pazigore. Mazoki Samari Pazigore. A Kogi Jungdun, Jungda Julu Zigora card. Tamazoki. Go the Latam Butichi Juna Samso. Savege Sanji Jumden de get a lot. Tunda Mame. That you don't look, you don't to Yagi only that. She Samari Bekola, Hajangi Jepo. But she do you in the Mambinala to Suma Sunday Pachire. That is an peasant of the Chig Juvaina and the Nagazo Dipachi major in Gawapusum Soberche, Rangisam Yonso, Dinisangetem by Inseji. Dua. Or take of me Seminamja de Sungo, it's a Tanamasangi be Dipachi major in Gawapusum, so the same year Rangu de Tulaina, Te Takarangiane, Sangi Tembares. Oda Sangiagi, Sangian, Jebal in Talom Yenemena, Langs Samlu Tolage, the mortar bachinis, the leg which other, Mileg which Chakanga, Panlangi Chatisokanga, mortar bachini, the Mileg which other, Pango Atesokanga, Payajita, Lanjagiri Sukabati, Lan in Yams Lembayana, take it, that Tabata Tashin, Kobanza, take it top to good as it, Seminaka de Sungure. That doesn't. That is all Tenjugi, the yard keeping in Nalandi Kabatizu, Tenlabayan to Alata, Levaning Giloma, Levan Cholans at Jumare, the Kongi, the Semegi Kolata, Semen Tenju, the Hajangi, the Mambo, Halamalamta, Pudi Yadan Lalaji, Zigore, the Niji Sumbare Zigore, Semet, that's Samgam repeat Namja or Kangala. 다 이마이나 갈로다 돌자라 자네면도 디디기다 지 냠술랑엔 자네면도 롭종지겐 대전나라 다가지다지 도나천보다 지 캡정부시라 마차임 이만다도 대지도 다 공기 공발라 다되게 되기면도 다 부디 야라지 삼바이나 미망라 다가지디 그 도나들레 도미도 도나 가르치고도 다 대주 감각이 내가 감각 좋아지도 되네. 뉴뉴지. 얘네 차장진 전다 차장 상대여 버지. 토라 딘디지다 용지 땅고도 냠베다 토라고니. 아니 다 날렌다 카리니 다 타부지여를 가이 타부드나 곰기안이 주도연다 세만남들 기타 최저의 잠바레죠. 참을 번돌로 변제바 동바 대샤결로 차살내는 데 따보기 여기 다징을 디니 디니는 누구 소녀를 파 칠로를 패두고 살아. 누구 소녀를 칠로를 파 패두들 아니 소녀님이 저 로인들 이게 숲샤요 그래서 요 말했어요. 이 캔서 가리나 섬로제네. 에 산이들 양교 참을 번돌로 변제바 동바 대샤결로 차살내는 데 다딩을 양교 디니도 되는 산이 양 Ningo Jalachin Ladion, young Yiggy subjects. Not do sin a Thomas Sumla teaching door. Thomas Sumla teaching to the subdua. That cans are carrying us. Thomas Sumbegandale, they you the lay, that Yigit, because he couldn't need the Tia Tagase, Tundam ever to mays. Kurang it similar to you by any, the Zemo Mazer chain, the Tundake Chambuji, the Tiagi. Kalsi Kurangi Mala Tsobatsogi in Zevainani, Kurang most of the show than when you Tsobatso and Diga the Zabachi goes. The Yigitini, Yodel, Titi, Yigitini, and Page Matida. They pay to on Latini. Carsa. There's a lot in so late on Lata. Mutegi, Mutegi, Tombatu Nangita Chigre. Mutegi Tomba Tubian Nabos actually. That Mutetumba Tubian Nabos in the that the Tabu Tegala, Yoimare. Then you do dog when you live in Cholana, Mutetumbanita, Yella Tuneta. Sabat did you get a yard Kevatu, Sabat Dugala? Tagamachi, Sabatsu Omaris, because it's Sushorena, they temple Tomian to get temple as Jason Jugua. And Muteba Shoraina, Muteba Nambe Temple and Jugua, Levenchola Shorzaina, and then Levenchola, Muteba Temple and Jugua, take Yanazun, Temba Yanazun, that was my Sabatidona. And then Tubayalzende, shorts on Rezo, palms on that. Palms on the dog, could Nambe Temple and Jugu already. Good thing you are the Dimajin, Tape. Tema Tejumata, Tantanga to the Zudulgitoneta, Dichigos, Dendurchigos. Tenigeneta, Mudi Tomategita, can't meban it. She make it love to my use of the Ta Tabuna Lavan Cholangita, Choguta, Tesukanga season result. Then it's Choguta Tesun Namda that the Kyanjamato, the Kondangi, the Huzula Keguchi Kyanjigu Samara, Kyanji to Gusaman. Then Matudon Lata could preach him, Yavni Terence, Muntinita, he was Sumla, and that Motivitomba, he was Sumlan Dindurchin, to Smatsarche, Rez at Lugichuri. Takanji, Karinemena, Leven Cholangita, Sama Kunduz and the Sunyu Dola, Samarkibodola Penjaba Tomba de Shakula Chasan is a tegi, Tubasangi Tumdende, Dajaki Tomba de Semikibu Yimbege. The Janze Patere. Then you was to Samuel Lata, Tonadina Lamidua. Luigi Pujo to me, but Loichi Shiraki, Luigi Pujo to me, but Loichi Shiraki. Luigi Pujo to me, but Loichi Kebargis, Loichi Kebargi, Sharablas of Pujo and devoted to Girains or Dindiji. Soon number.
Chundaka is 16. $10.
That is illegitimate. They doesn't tire.
Sigurd Comas and
Luigi Pulju Dimapers. Luigi Pulju Dimapper, Louis Chepi Kebargis. Louis Chepi Kebargis. Sharab Lasso Puljunda, devoted to Kurains. That is some good to know. Mala, see the Ramason. Ramason at time time. Some good.
The quarter color was 60 deal of water lecture.
What the quality is Yamatel and the Seyo.
The former year took the lashing with the 6 on your mother.
Ale, and a quarter of the deal water. Lu top Chimboyavina, and a Telapabe, Lodia Chimbujungores, and a low top Chimbujavina, Telapabe Ludia, top Chimbujungores at it.
So from today we are studying the translation is awareness and knowledge. Awareness is knowledge, and which comes from Buddhist, Buddhist scripture on you can call it Buddhist psychology nowadays, Buddhist psychology, and also related with the what we call valid cognition. And prior to 2000 years, there were many we can find teachings given on this particular topic in Buddhism. And one obvious example would be this very commonly cited verse, do not create any non-virtuous activity, create complete, virtuous, activity, tame your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. It's very commonly cited verse. And in this verse, it's really this really talks about Buddhist psychology. The essence in Buddhist practice basically is training your mind. And this is the practice of Buddhism in essence. And and for that, the method that one needs to adopt is identify what needs to be adopted, what needs to be abandoned, and with that understanding, with that knowledge, then engage in the actual practice of eliminating what is harmful, negative, and what is positive and virtuous. And so in this verse, Buddha is basically talking about Buddhist psychology, Buddhist psychology. And when we look at the, excuse me, the treatises by great Indian masters, there's a great Indian master, Vasubandhu, and then his student, Deknak. And Deknak has composed more than 100, volumes on this particular topic, valid cognition or Buddhist psychology. And however, after composing this many texts, it didn't sort of become worldwide common practices among the population. So he thought of himself, why is this not working? I have composed this many texts, and then he thought of why not maybe just summarize all into one comprehensive text, and that way it could be more beneficial and more kind of productive. And so he was then contemplating on the the content of the text that he's going to compose or summarize. And so he was in his sort of in his cave, and then he came up with the homage salutation in a verse of the text, which begins with saying that the valid one who benefits migrators or sentient beings, I pay homage to you, Buddha. So he wrote that homage verse on a slab of rock and left it outside his cave. And so then whenever he comes back from his lunch time, he sees that was erased, and then next day same happened. Next day 3 times he saw that the one he wrote was erased and destroyed. And then he left a note saying that whoever is doing this, if you're doing this for the sake of fun, please don't do it. If you're serious, then show up yourself. I have a purpose of writing this, composing this homage verse. And then at that time, the one who was kind of erasing and doing this destruction was one of the 6 non-Buddhist great masters. And Geshe mentioned the Tibetan name Tupyanabu. And I don't remember the actual Sanskrit word, and so I will just keep the Tibetan word Tupyanabu. And so and then they decided to have a debate. And at that time, debating is very kind of serious. If you lose, then you convert it to non-Buddhist school, whoever that you are debating with. And if non-Buddhist master is defeated, then he needs to convert his faith to Buddhism. So there was kind of bargain at that time, and it's kind of very serious, So then they engage into kind of debate, and eventually a non-Buddhist master lost, and then he sort of didn't accept, and he said, we need to do further in this kind of sort of conflict. And then he started showing his miracle powers, and he burned, sort of throws fireball from his mouth and burns Deknak's, robes. And so we find this in a very kind of, say the history of, this great master. And it says they engage in this kind of, sort of intense debate continuously for kind of three generations, philosophical, obviously, the philosophical debate. And there was, sort of, the prior to, or sort of preparation for this, his composition of the great text called Compendium of Valid Cognition by Deknak, the text. And And 디 식제디 카르날 요소인데 치마 군주나라
가이데
심타나 카레 똠바상기
스머기 호텔로 편집자데
디마 류기 표준 카레
알레데 스마군디
알레
그런 초랑이다 자위기
군주라나라 알레 군주
세면 남자고라 다 부디 망고 담바라 얘도 관계 내가 뭔가 초지도 되니다 치소 스마군디 제 담바 사명들라 당고 공공원이다 류기 보존 좀 해버 류집에 결합이 개발이 이제 세계 담바에서 봐
So and the compendium of valid cognition, there might be other translation as well. In essence, in this book, they establish Buddha being a valid, teacher. That's the essence of, using all kinds of philosophical arguments, points. And so, in the same verse, in the same text, Geshe, kind of recite one verse. In which he said he will explain the meaning of the verse later, but this verse is talking about the more physical power you have, the more mental strength that you have, and likewise in the reverse order. So, but he said, this is a verse with lots of debate, contentious kind of interpretation. So therefore he will go on this later.
대지도 달리기 보존 좀 해봐라 로이집에 개발기스 되게 가서 거래잖아 류 풀도 좋아당 풀도 좋아래 로 풀도 좋아당 류 젬발레 로 젬바 용거래스 차거래스 되게 가리서 거래잖아 무슨 도와리도 올라 차잖아 다 자위기 단 점불링기다 자위 지금 점불링기 차다이나 그랬더니 점불링 대된도다 ndo simjen cha de zo ga la ta nang be jung ni sha da tensang ki theri ki ta nyamji ki thone tumde thya da che ba na tanda bor de theri ki tumde thya sha ba de la kanglang gansang ki ta nang be jung ni sha ba da thim ba ji tu su yong go re ro ta de zo ga mo go che big ben cha da di 토레지어라 토레야다한테니 대된도다 진중하지 차단 선전 차단도 좀 단 로리도 나는가도 로 미들라 투모마인베 자위게 참여 봐 선전 여도절로 찍받지야 자기어를 레데 밀라 투모마인베 이 개발지 저는 개주지 가리어래잖아 샘여바 간실라 샘들 그 제바지네 다 소소소소게 다제제는데 리바 만디바 렉바단 밀렉베 차대도 간가 이와치 도약이 뉘바지 투모메비 개발지 요래서
류기 표준 팀에 봐라도 티카를 다르다 탭트
딥데스
딥데 알아
아웅가르도 조금 딥데 봐요
류기 표준 팀에 봐
야데 두스만 냠차 도약이 지어라 딥데데 차야당 파래지거나 되게 딥데
I was asking the words that he recited earlier, in Tibet, into the English translation would be the power and diminishing of the body. It's the beginning of the verse, which as we did earlier. Later, I will post on Facebook the verses that he recited now, and not able to kind of provide you completely. And so this verse talks about sort of physical strength in its comparison to the mental. So strong body, strong mind, inferior kind of physical strength, inferior mental. And here, not talking much about, Buddhist interpretation and its compatibility with the modern scientific findings, beginning with, Big Bang, 4 elements, how sentient beings first kind of came into existence. among the 6 realms of sentient beings, human species is considered as a very unique, and the uniqueness of the human comes from additional to having human consciousness or mind. Human consciousness or mind has a unique ability to investigate and to analyze, and differentiate then what is kind of beneficial for oneself and what is harmful, and then kind of pursue that kind of what is benefits and, kind of eliminate what's harmful. So human has that unique kind of capacity or that, sort of intelligence or ability.
다 인바인도 다텔랑 아주 삼로 다지래. 그죠? ane pena lui top chumbo yogen jila top chumbo yogen semdenji imbaina tegi semde top chumbo yong guido midu ane sem top chumbo yogen jigi lui de tena jingi top chumbo ji yong guido bindu right
Yes.
pena chajana langbo cheyore ta semjengi nane ta halam top chisho do bi right 랑보치 류도 첨보레데 샘도 첨보 거기 테네징이 샘데 도 첨보 요래요 말에 어떤데 두스 당아 쪽에 삼르다니다 먼저 거기는 있는 다산이 있나 타고 다살다에게 그 리바이 마 공벌도 다에게 탑람 잔문도 다 저바자야게 저비 지지도 좀 차기 오래서 다 강사를 단다 디남 리베 남자 때도 강가 셰 용동하라 다 결혼도 임바이나 단다 인지나는 대세여다 바티 인지 민지다 디 마용권라 강라 강삼지 로네 삼로다니 때로 차라 가져 두두 소속이 가리 차도도 된다도 가져지 하고도 삼로지당 에네 때네 하모고 때도 강가 디 용네 루루진이야 때 살가도 지때도 보여나 지 탑시도 제로와 근데 제네 만도바이나 다 남중에 가족에 지 담시에 년바도 버치는 도스 년년 도바이나 뒤쪽에 자기 저도 보지마도 편도다가 되지 어 용도고 말에 계속 놀라 살아두고 말에 하고 두고 말해서
Yes.
개침부지 때래 다 단다 중 지하는 가지고 단다 뒤로 아까서 여론 계속 뭐지 제시하게 됐지 마 다중 그런 거는 두순 도바이나 자위기 중 단다디 배자리 돈도 강장 가족이 나타 신이다 예와지고 랑루 그런 게 있다 너자지요라 어때게 제가 신이 예와다 되게 천지다 되게 강장마도 그 가지긴도 봐 총인도 받아 대소 강가 다 때를 쯧다 그림 봐 대소 강가 민도 초진에 사지 맞아 사날 따대보다 전지 답대보다 도로
Yes.
다때 중 마셔도라 로다른 잠팔이 아니 되베카르 로장 답에 팔라 차잔니스 로리 남자 녀고 군디바 로멘 리베 나와 예치르 펠스 티 중데다 여론 컨저버지 콘디게 엔제샤교게 시진사레 티 가레스 숭기요도잖아 로다른 잠팔이 아니 되베카르 제도라 지든 잠베야 로터자데 지든 잠베야기 천지레 천기 남단지 지든 잠베야데 lögar genjila pelane ro tal lögar ken kare lögar kala pelang kare chagido panal lögar thangi miji jana ta lögar baji imbayina ko tulji chila turan dam mindasten namjur dam mindasten ne ta 파조 세모 사겐 대주기 지 이완 토퍼 지 조투고요. 저기 개체도 골도가 발때 개체도 요래 상고래서 어때 내진기 지준 잠베야 될 도가 바질라 툴네 때 수레잖아 제름 붙여 로잔 다바레스 툴차교데 다 지준 잠베 너르디나 지준 잠베야기 툴 샤베 미 넘버 툴 샤베나 제름 붙여 로잔 다바데 지준 잠베야 궁외마지 임발라 주카가 조조르비지 투기 지바인발라 치기다 후주 가가조르비 텐디지레스 다 데라다 지 공르기다 지 구자 제네 다 가르시긴 돈다 가리 유바 고바 김자 가리였을 때 제르무 절라 지든 잠배하다 제르무 좀 오예메라 구자 제고 고바 김자 가리요레 제바이나 루리 남자 녀고 조디디스 단다 루리기다 시비기 남자 대조 건가 아니지 갑두기다 값숨바베긴 둘잘라 녀와 코여 지 고고 첨부 돈다 첨부 요되겐 아니 지 세명이 중 차상기 돈다 님보 차상 뒤에 여바지 어다 아 로맨즈나 로충중데조다 용라셔다 장화맹년 대조기 릭베기 나와테 펠라기 제도 로리기 남자 디 짬기 소거바 디기 제도다 디 구자치기 인 시제지부터기 돈다 드니 진사래 도트지
주주.
주주대요.
삼바 탐정님. So the verse, which begins with the physical strength and diminishing of physical power and strength. This verse, is presented, but however, this verse is presented in a form of kind of analysis, and one needs to then think: is that really true? The more physical power, strength, body has, does that necessarily mean the more mental strength or not? On the other hand, small body, does that mean small, mind or small mental power? And obviously it comes with, when we talk about a big physical body in animal realms, elephant, like probably one of the biggest, and does an elephant has a most powerful mind or not? So in the monastic institution, in monastery, this is presented as a kind of basis of the debate, and in order to improve the intelligence of the participants, they intensely kind of engage in this kind of debate, and so now for this class, the important thing Geshe is emphasizing is that we are studying about the aspects of the mind or consciousness, and so therefore it's not kind of it's not easy, and you must, before coming to class, if you have a textbook, read it yourself and try to get some kind of understanding of your own. You have your own understanding of what you have gained from reading, and then if you have a doubt and something that is not clear, we can discuss in the class and then move forward. Otherwise, if you come to this class just like kind of regular class, simply listening, then that would be probably wastage of your time. This won't help you, and this won't help you. There would be no benefit of just kind of listening and then try to so therefore that's important to keep in mind. And the text that we are studying, if you have a book, it starts from unnumbered page. If numbered is page 44, then page 43, and then maybe page 43, 41. Is part 2 translation. So the name of the text is presentation of awareness and knowledge. And this is the commentary by Lada Rinpoche, but the actual root text was composed by commonly called Gyalrong Khensur, the ex-abbot, Gyalrong ex-abbot, and this text, the title on the next page, presentation of awareness and knowledge, composite of all the important points of the eye of new intelligence, and the title of the text. And this text is composed, and presented what we call generally in Buddhist, this kind of structure. It's presentation of one's own system, our own system, one's own system in a very comprehensive, precise manner. If you look at the text structure, you can see presentation of definitions and then types. It doesn't, talks about the opponent's view and the, clarification of the opponent's view. We don't see that kind of, the debate arguments, philosophical arguments. It's merely kind of straightforward presentation of definition, meaning. And from one perspective, it's very kind of easy to read and understand and, easy to understand. So we'll start with the homage or salutation on page 44. The author Gyalrong Khyentse, or his name Geshe Jambe Sampe, and it begins with the salutation on page 44. Having bowed down to the glorious Losam Thakpa, emanation of Manju Gosha, treasury of wisdom, I extend this presentation of awareness and knowledge, composite of all the important points, in order to increase the clarity of knowledge of those with low intelligence. In Tibetan language, it starts with the treasury of wisdom, Manjushri. So in this verse, it starts with the using a metaphor of Manju Gosha. It says emanation of Manju Gosha. The emanation word, emanation. It would be like kind of entertainer, and entertainer. What usually entertainer does is using different gestures, maybe different costumes. They kind of entertain audience. Likewise here, Manju Gosha is like a emanation, and but Manju Gosha emanation is kind of expressed in the in human form, Tsongkhapa. So Tsongkhapa, who is emanation of Manjushri, and Tsongkhapa and Manjushri, although they looks different, appears different, but in terms of the mind quality, they are same, but different emanations. And so, I having bowed down to glorious Losam Thakpa, so having bowed down or paying homage to Lobsang Thakpa, who is an emanation of Manjushri, and the reason why he is doing this, homage or paying salutation is, he's composing this, at this moment, or for the sake of his audience or followers at that time, he's composing this presentation of awareness and knowledge, and according to the level of the followers or listeners, and which is the essence of all scriptures of valid cognition, and in order to increase clarity of knowledge of those with with or of low intelligence.
Tachite Dela and Diri Loriki Navja Shabala Sum Setu, and it's Sini Yewa Su Sheba was that Dinigi Goba Dedante Yevaina, the Goba Gangi Chitu Tambi Dela the Niziki Kata Isare. Diri Loriki Navja Shabala, the Lorik Seneta, Tanyaji Tiki Undo Bechi. That low Rik Sedula. Signi ki zoto bajire. Ta koni tsayi ki tanda lo zewa tang rikpa zewa ni tanda chiba chigyan re la ene rikpa lo chini zewa re. Rikpa zewa de lo chini zewa. Ta lo tang rikpa ni ka nyamdo jar gowa tanda kare res. Yumzen kare res. Chik singi ki zhungne ta shedo la singi da tsancha zegi tanya jingwa re. Singi da tsancha zewa tanya beje tangdungala singi zewade karichila ko kandis gogo rezana chonja kan imbati ha magowa goi chedu tangpo singi zewade ngote che chala dindichila disi ta chonja zewade ko zaiwe ki chala mangshi de che ta ko la singi dindichitane di tappe chajana tanda di iPad re iPad tabu de la chajana iPad chawi ge di chalan domji ji orwa e korang chonja zurbe che ta te la iPad zoning gita engineers ora engineer ge ko zorda dinde ji zo tenala Khechok da software da tizo ko Khechok dinde ji zo ne ko ge da di chapta ji zo ga zo ming tanye da ro tanye de tambo tanyen gi da chala zorda dinde ji la dila iPad za ta ming dinde ji ta go do ming dinde ji ta ba dene zo de nga zu ge iPad za de da de go yong de la 거기 zor다다 육자자면도 그 매저지야 개주도 강가지고 로라 차트고라 같이 디 아이패드 존예 가자기 콜라 타녜데 마타바 딜라 잘라 미 젬바지 따여 바이나 아이패드 자는 가지 잘라 딜라 고기 말에 젬바지로 코 잘라 가리 타녜 가리 따이나 딜라 고기로 와 아이패드 자데 어디 신이 손자자데 고 chala nguiji de hakwa gi thablam gi chedo ngon tambula gate gi thanye ji chagyo res
Yes.
imagine low rig zade rigpa zade low gi chini la jar ngore dana di gazo low rig zane thanye de konyam du jar gote yang kalo zorda weba minda ji res
Let's just so now we are going through the text, and if you have a textbook, we are going reading only the maybe we can call it root text for the sake of this kind of understanding. Root text means if you look at your book, the root text comes in a small font. The larger font is the commentary by Latin Rinpoche. So we are following the root text only. And root text now on page 45. This presentation of awareness and knowledge has three parts: definitions, divisions, and the meaning of each division. And so this, when it says this, it's kind of emphasizing on the topic itself. Here we find kind of two words, awareness and knowledge, which basically has the same meaning, but two different expression: awareness and knowledge. And you'll find later the definition of awareness is knower. Knower is the definition of awareness. And usually, when we go through this kind of understanding of terms, always in Buddhist scriptures, there is a first definition, and then there is, what's called definendum, and the definition and definendum is really to understand, what it is, that object that you are trying to, understand. So Geshe was using the example of iPad. So if you're using the example of iPad, iPad, when it was made in this particular shape with all softwares, and then later they come up with, we are going to call this iPad. And after designation of this object with this name iPad, later whenever we heard that this designation iPad, immediately we have a understanding that this looks like this, and it has this kind of software, and it gives us what it is through that naming, through that designation. However, if this object is not given on iPad and iPad is given on another object, that image that we have of iPad doesn't come in our mind. It would be totally different. So therefore, when we usually use this definition, it is meant to kind of communicate properly, make you understand properly what this object is, or what is this the meaning. So here we find, as said earlier, the awareness and knowledge using together, although the same meaning, there is purpose for that or reason for that.
sonza ta dikadu ta changme sangwala hago ke chishoji singi zo tanda jeje yaso singi zo kandiji gogudu chonja zo de kandiji gogudu jigre ro tene ko yewa ze ji yongdo yewa ze de ta kandiji lo gogu re ze baina yewa ze dola ta pena chajana iPad zena sawi gi manji gi ta tablet chigro ta dila mini iPad za do da and then the Karsa, Chambujido Atanda, Dili Cheji, Dili Chuaji, does Rig the Masana, Yawa Mida Mambuji. Or the Zuganga ko I bet Yawa Chadir. I bet Imba Kajila, Zortada, Nangi Cheju thought of Mida Yavaina. Savi Ming, I bet Ming Chiva Chadera. Or Digi Cheverma, Yawa Zade, go Savi the Sanjadi Yimbala, Kola eat Rig Mida Yedabachella, Yavas, it Kuar.
Yes. So therefore, before moving forward, it is important to have some understanding, or what does definition means, what does definiendum means, what does division means. These you need to have those understanding, because this will come again and again in the following text. So definition, definiendum, and division. Division. Geshe was again using example of iPad. When we say division of iPad or types of iPad, the assumption understanding is that the iPad itself is a one object with a very particular form and shape. And when we talk about further, then the types of iPad, you have big one, you have a mini, you have iPad Air. All of these are types of iPad. In a sense, all of these are iPad. There's not separate, but these are further divisions. So the basic definiendum object is one thing, but it has a many different kind of comes in many different sort of size or shape, but basically the same object.
Sonza Tandi only sharing as a Luriginam, Ripada Shepe Namja to only share young to that's in Zawachidan, Sanja Zawachidan, Yeva Zawati, Yansi as Kuyong de Gora.
Yes.
Or Tezu Kangala, at Sini Zawati Candijal Kodu, Sanja Zawati Tandangazu Zavanation Candijal Kodu. Take Yeva Zawati Candijal Kodu, Tanda Iper Lepejani, Sunadikizo Toz Kolela, take Ripati to a Shepe Namjala Shayun Dollar, Koripatus Machibachigan Jarni, Koachires.
So as said earlier, when we are studying about or on awareness and knowledge, later the following text, this will come again and again, the definition, definiendum, and types or divisions. And we just use, for the sake of simplicity, the example of iPad, and you use the same kind of, sort of same understanding applied to the later when we are talking about different types or definitions, or the definiendum of the consciousness or mind or awareness.
Indualata Tambuni Ribaluchini is at the Richardwa. That is Sumginani. Tandadilla Karinduzana, Sini, Yeva Susu turns. Yeva Susu turns to Yeva Tezugita, Sini Kari, Yevana take it, Kajadeshigora, Yeva Susu turns at the Sumbati. That is Sumgi Tampo Sini Kajashido, Sini Kajashidu, Riba Zad, Lutini as the Lakshan. The Riba Zad, the Lutini as the Riba the Kar, Riba and a Kadijala Kogu Zavina. Low Zade, Riba Zajile Kogu. The low Zade Hakwala, Tampo Riba and the Hakodo. The Kuni, one is on the Cardo, the Chibachigan Riba Zadan Lozani Chochin, at some Samayang, Riba the Lodan Shepanum Tunjik Zaji, Tanya Jimore. Loza, Riba Zada, Shepaza, Tunjik, Kanga Minchibachigan Razor. That Anadiga Riba Zade, Loza, the Seniors, Riba Zada Karzana, Yul Salva, and Yama Yul Charwa, Yamana Yul Topa Zajire. That Riba Zana. You'll rig bazar, you'll thong, okay, Ambushiba in Bina, Ambushiba get a zoo, Cariton and it, Thong Adela, rig bazar.
On page 45, so here we see three parts: definitions, divisions, meaning of each division. And starting with the definitions, a definition of an awareness is a knower. And again, when it says definition of awareness is a knower, then what is knower means? One is to understand the knower. Also, usually we find, Awareness, knowledge, consciousness, they are just one thing. They are all mean same thing. And so it's sometimes kind of confusing and hard to understand what each means and how to differentiate. So here, it says the definition of awareness is knower. Knower refers to, the meaning here is, one which clarifies the object, one which understands the object, one which, visualizes the object. In terms of sense faculty, one which helps you to see, seeing, that is what means knower here.
是吧？ 他这个都能 break 去，
Yes.
几 break
I'll take a break here.
10 minutes.
It sometimes translates as the thing that apprehends the object.
Yeah, there are many different, translation. Again, the other part is if you look at the different books, you might see a different word, kind of in the reverse order. It's complicated in Tibetan, more complicated in English. So
야, 나 리발루친이잖아, 리스로.
mhm.
되네. 리발루친이. 다 살진 리바시베친이. 살진 리바시베친이. 다 리바자단 로자단 시바자도 그거 단고. 갈라지 주임바. 던지래. 자위게 던다지 바래. 시바자단 리바자단. 다들 또도 카살다나 살진 리바스. 살라인잖아. 살진잖아. 다 갈로다가 저 pena di shelgo zato jiro shelgo dabaji la ko nano da tima da de ke ku ma zangma zangyang zo de ne ganga tong tu ro pa jo ne zu jo chilo na lo tong tu ro de na jing gi ta salho yin ba zo ta dindi gi ta riba zana dang ge tong wa na wa char wa je ji ro 어때라 살진릭 바죠 셰바자 자데 오드니지 율 살와 지 디지기 디메기 마디바스 살와죠 리바지데 데 디메기 마디바네 지마지진 율기 네루 지마지진도 또베 차니 살진릭 바죠 어 셰바자데다 돈단돈도 셰바자데 간디지고 그러잖아 율 랑기 쿠랑기 셰바 강다 강인 바나 쿠랑기 도자기 율때 아니 라 디지기 디메기 가야 마디바 아니 살와 나와 살와 차르와 살와 또 빠지는 지바레 어딘디기 로지라 셰바지고레
The definition of the awareness is a knower. A definition of a consciousness is that which is clear and knowing. So now in this definition of consciousness, it's more kind of sort of clearer than the merely awareness. Again, as we said earlier, usually, we use all these three as having the same meaning: awareness, knowledge, consciousness, so here, definition of consciousness, that which is clear and knowing. Clear in a sense that like if you have a clean, a glass that you can see through clearly what is outside, from outside what is inside, without any kind of dirt or obscurations. And in terms of the mind, when clarity is referred to mind, understanding or apprehending or seeing object without any kind of obscurations. And that is the clarity. And knowing means apprehension, or as we said earlier, something that appears in your mind, or visualizing in one's mind, without any obscurations.
lo zadan lo rig zadan yung da lo za da riba zadan sheba zadan shepe tanda shepe tsingi ji jasong ane ripa lo tsingi ze logi tsingi de jasong ta gansar lo zayadang ripa zayadang shepa zayadang shikpa re tanda donjik zayadi ming mida tsamji mato zaywe ki tanda kosa koyu konga ane semgi namja de imba chikpa chikyang re se war.
At the end of page 47, then it says the three, awareness, knower, and consciousness, are synonymous. In the text, we find the meaning of the two sort of definition, awareness and consciousness. But although they are, different terminology or expression, but in terms of the actual kind of reality, all three refers to the same object. And that's why, in a sense, synonymous.
Right? Ta nipa yewa la, nipa kangang la kare zana, singi yewa suzu tanze nipa tere, yewa ze, singi tangpo de che, yewa ze du nipa de che. Ta yewa la sum ze, ta yizul de la, ta tende ki lo de la, ta yizul tanda de la sum jagi do, ta yizul mina mangpo shivu chi yore. Dini yungu ge, yewa la sum ze. Ta ore, luri dundu yewa ze yizul chik che roa. ane luri sumdu yewa ze yizul ni che. ane luri ni su yewa ze. Ta tsawe ki yizul de shati roa. Yizul kora la ta yewa de la tambo yizul chi jagundu. Luri dundu yewa yizul chik, luri sumdu yizul chik, ane luri ni su yizul chik. Ta yewa ze do kara zana, ta shepe ki namja, tsawe ki shepe namja, ta hajang ki ta mambu shivu chi yue de bache che. Roa. Ta namda mida mambu chi yue de bache, tezo kanga dodo tsu duyong na, duyong bayi na, ta luri sumdu yizul chik nala duzul chik yue bache. Luri duyong zine, ta duyong yu yizul nala yang yizul chik yue bache. ane luri nyi ndor dina, te yang nyuru tambayi na, luri nyi zine ta, nyi gina duzul tende chi sumdu.
On page 48, divisions, in the Tibetan text, it says for the second, then, division, secondly. So second earlier refers to first definition, then there's a divisions, and then meaning of the division. So page 48, divisions. Divisions, the division has a further, here it only says three divisions, but, division is further in Tibetan categorized into the modes of further classifications, further divisions for the division. And for that, we have, 7, 3, and 2. And generally, when we talk about consciousness or mind, the divisions or category is sort of extensive, There's many ways of dividing, categorizing mind or consciousness. But if you sort of somehow categorize into different kind of section or category classification, then we have 7, we have 3, and then in most kind of least kind of category is 2. So 7, 3, and 2.
Tejirwa. Ta tenangi tangbo yi, ta lori dundu yi tsulde de sha. Ta lori dundu, ta shepe namja chazangji dui shepa nan dodo, tunsan dungi dunala dunye ma sheki reyes. Tunsan dunala dui bayi na, dun kar reyes de bayi na, ta ngosum zaya chik chi rwa tenangi. Shepa zaya de nyi che, Geshe zaya de da sum che, Yije zaya de da yi che, nala mangepa zaya che da nga che, Tezom zaya che da zhu che, ne loshe zaya de da dun. Dundu yizul, ta te sawi ki ta nomji yizul de che tangbo rwa.
Yes. So on the same page, the division into 7 consists of, so these are the 7 divisions: direct perception, inference or inferential. Now you can see a different translation, of these 7. Mostly are same, like a direct cognition, inferential cognition or inference. 3rd, subsequent cognition. 4th, correct assumption. 5th, appearance without ascertainment, and more simpler would be indeterminate, cognition or indeterminate perception. and then 6, doubt, and then 7, wrong or distorted consciousness. So these are the 7, and sort of the general, the foundational kind of structure of the mind in one kind of understanding.
Right.
Mm.
That the really that and the lorry doing the dance on some there, the Jibas and the Jason. That they do really get done that so many man does my talion do gala. That you was to turn there, Sumba you was to turn the Tangi Gala, Tambo Sumji dance on. Singi, Yawachi, you was to turn in the Sum Tambenangi. That you was to turn the Dula. That was some that Jiba down to really get that done that so many tally sharing done that you was to turn there, Sumba Teres.
And then third, again, in your English translation, it just starts with the direct perceiver. But, in Tibetan, it's very specific. If you look back at page 45, you can see, 3 parts: definition, division, meaning of each division. And at the beginning here, it should be meaning of each division, and then direct perceptions, so perceivers or perception. So it starts with the meaning of each division, beginning with the direct perception or direct perceiver.
다 되는 게 당보 가르선 당보 원숨제 든도 당연도라 로리 든다 차상 뒤바나 전전 든나 되게 돼서 든기 당보 가르서는 원숨제 될래서 원숨제의 시엔도를 당 원숨라 신이다 여와니 코란라 양 나세기 전전이 가는 시기 거기 원숨기 신이 대당 그 원숨라 예와 가르 양 코란 나세기 예와 가져 요래잖아요 여와니 고니 시기 이르고 사
And in Tibetan, very precise with the outline. In here, again, direct perceivers explain in 2 types. First, definition, and then divisions.
다 되는 게 진이 시에도는 다 원숨제야 되게 진이 가르치자 그러잖아. 저는 또바단 달지 마틀웨리 바알래. 봐. 또바단 달지 마틀웨리 바지 다 원숨제도는 또바 또메제 가자니 거라. 다 된데게 또바 또메제 가자니 나네. 또메제 인 내전도 인고. 다 원숨제니 가자시엔도 또바제데 균이 거기 초를 균이 영향해야지. 또바단 달지 toba mayin bazi gore toba na kyunin delio mares tobe kaje shedon toba na delio mare ane mathul ri bazi to mathul bazi to khogi yul gang ngoin jingi yebana tela yani chima jijindo charwa nawa toba ro pena mathul zana thul de dole chamjama ga joge pena ga jo diji ungdo 니만 다 제만 제당을 니만 서고 쉬고지 여바이나 그죠 다른 분이 또 스타디오나 보이 상대가를 지 멤버교에 나와도 보지 용도 아주 미라 통랑라 멤버교에서 근데 말람람람 챙겨서 그렇지 매게 나와서 정도도 어때 또부터 가르잖아 나중에 미게 왕병 원숨데 출루와 뒤뒤가라 출루에 나와대 용거 어때 내지 마인 바제네 고랑기 단 미기기다 엄봉은 숨도 더 보인바이나 거기 쭉 강당간 도기여바나 코란 델라 마출와지 율지마 지진도 안에 차르와당 나왔던 게 또바티 덴디질라다 원숨제게 돼서 너르나 또바단 챌린지 마출라 인겐지 아니 덴디기다 율지마 지진 또 도게니 로질라다 원숨제 되자고 당해자고 그래서
Direct perceivers on page 49. The explanation of direct perceiver has 2 parts or 2 divisions: definitions and divisions. The first definition of a direct perceiver is a non-mistaken knower that is free from conceptuality. So usually, conceptual and non-conceptual. Here, this must be non-conceptual. It says free from conceptuality. And the next kind of feature or quality is non-mistaken, means correctly understanding the whatever object as it is to the perceiver, perceiving mind or perceiver mind or consciousness. And so non-mistaken knower and free from conceptuality. when we say non-mistaken, the mistaken example would be, in a very hot, sunny desert. If you look from the distance, you can see kind of, mirage, which is mistaken to that eye consciousness perceiving that mirage. It's a mistaken. So here should be non-mistaken, meaning whatever it's trying to perceive exactly as it is. The object itself without any distortion or mistaken.
어떻게 다 드는지 님에 드린 망본도 만도 제가 빙이 맞습니다. 다 드린 돈단 돈동 가서 가리서 두고도 되나 로릭 제까지 시행달라 리바젠데 르치니제 자위게 예다 숨으로 저리도 소 신이제 예와제 예와스스 된제 된다 subject 숨나라 다 신이제도라 신이제도 리바자데 르치니 근데 살진 리바자데 시베 신이제 다 shiba zayadala tsingi chigja, ane lo zayadala tsingi chigja, tsingi nija songa. Ta oodani sheyendola, yang shiba zayadang, lo zayadang, riba zayadang, tezo sumga ane donda chigri, donji reyazani, kaja chigi chung songa, chigje. Ane yewa zayadi sheyendola, ta lori dundu yizul chigje, ane lori sumdu yizul chigje, ane lori nisu yizul zane, ta yewa dala yizul 미래와 숨도 같이 용서한. 아니 예와스지 된제다 숨바 예와스지 된제다 숨바데 아니 예와스지 된제다 다 루리 된도 이술 임바이나 루리 된도 이술 되나라 된도 이술 되나라 원숨 제바 되네 가르고 제시 이제 나라만가와 대좀 로시제데 눈여베 장네 예와스지 된제도라 데 레리기다 원숨이나 원숨이 증이다 예와도 그가 마셔요야 다 지바이나 지바기 증이다 예와도 그가 레레는 줄도간에 거 카살도다니 셰요한데라 예와스 된제 숨바 예와스 된제 대용기 계속 다 대난기 원숨자들라 원숨적인데 증이자들라 또바다 달지 마틀리 바자지 이러와 다 또바다 달진스디 또바마인 게지고 아니 마툴로 아직도 율다 툴데바 마임바 아직거래 툴시스 툴존나 율지마지신도 또두고 말해 율리 내루 가임도 또두고 말 제상 대지 마툴로 아직거 리바지도 다율 단계 리발로 승이 잡은 율 나와 차르와자다 네바제도 그거 자베게 돈다 집어라 율고 살고 하고 하들라 강사를 율도 바지고 वो दिल्ली की तबादन डालजी मचुलेरी बाजे तो मौसम जाते दिल्ली जिला जाके दे जा सकता
Okay. So we will stop here for today. Just a quick review what we covered earlier. We start with the definition of awareness and knowledge. Presentation of awareness and knowledge has three parts: definition, division, meaning of each division, and then on page 45 definition we talk about kind of comes here two point awareness definition of knower as a definition of awareness, and then the definition of consciousness, which is clear and knowing, and then divisions, we see kind of three big category of 7, 3, and 2, and then third, each meaning of each division, starting with this 7, starts with the direct perception and direct perceiver, defining each of these 7 along with its own different its own kind of category or types, and direct perceiver, as we said earlier, non-mistaken knower that is free from conceptuality. So 3 kind of points here: non-mistaken, and then free from conceptuality or non-conceptuality, and also knower, the knower that we saw in the first part, knower or apprehending. And so when consciousness of mind has that quality, it is given direct perceiver.
어떻게 다 드린 게 세상 된데 지지 다 결혼 쪽에 다제 삼로가 철줄라 간디지 다 셰바가 제도나 다 간디지라 고토고스.
So, we'll stop here for today. And Geshe was asking, when you, hear this word consciousness, so what does usually that mean to you? What does it gives? What understanding you have, or what kind of images that you have in your thought when you hear word consciousness or mind? Mhm.
I guess.
What's that? Yeah.
Self-luminous.
Mhm.
Continuous.
숨도 쉬었지.
Continuous.
균대행의 직체 때문에 세보체 안에 칼로를 다 같이 보려고 그래.
말에다 가르쳐 왔다 셰바 제도라 가족에 가자데 셰은도라 아니 난기 삼류기 토네 지보마도 치기 죽젠다 딘데라 단큐니 데와 메데바지 다 셰구여 봐서 자위 직대로와 셰바 제도라 난다 가족 세리베 가자샤베네 세리베기 다 레베 가자 지고 셰고라 셰바 제도라 고 레바단 델데기니 지가지 삼례 거지 셰고르모노 다 가족의 때 말에 단다 낭베기 중에 레바단 델데베기 삼례 거 지고 때 지고 말했어 레발레 로소 레베기 다 자와제야지요라 대기 자와제와 레베기 자와제야리 로소양 삼로제지 샘제야데 주르도 요데베치다 대양 지 치기 죽젠다 대소레 균이 마덴겐지조라 마덴겐지잖아 대단 치기 죽젠라 다 칼로다 죽젠 마인겐지조라 다 죽젠데 균이 델메잖아야 도즈칼 가보조르 지 자고다 주제 마인겐지 레바즈나 고 주제 차대로 레비기 저와 제야데 주제 자위기 고 주제기 저와지 차대로 레비기 저와데 임바이나 단다디 주제 이 마인겐지 주제기 저와 마인베게 근데게 율라 디 나야다 데졸라 디 저와 제 토건지 딘디기다 삼로제고라 다 가르저거다 다 셰바 제도라 루젠 마인 겐지 강다 루젠 마인 베게다 추지라다 셰바 제드니 지고고 요레스.
So when we usually, use word consciousness, again, I'm kind of, following this translation, consciousness, Tibetan word shepa. Immediately, the first kind of sense is something that is internal, that has, that is not, that is not external object, something internal, not external object. And from scientific point of view, when we talk about consciousness, we talk as if consciousness is somehow connected with the brain or a brain, not able to kind of separate these two entity. And in Buddhism, when we talk about consciousness or mind, totally separate from brain. And when we talk, as I said earlier, something that is not, external object. And mind is not the function of external objects, and the mind has a capability to apprehend or to understand its respective object, and that entity we can say a mind or consciousness.
야. 대다 더 갈달 칼로르 가족에 치 주전라 되는 데서 야게 오마리 용 다 코근 데세기 용 Minda Mira Mambo your Lurigan Namja says, they took it law ne Marazu Nangi Samlutonita, she Koaji Nye Chuyamato, she's Ujel and they say Yanatu take Koal Nyadi, Nangi Shebala Koan Nyadi, Kalakawashi. That's also that she begin Koan Nyedula, Suzuki Samlutanita, Nayate Chikche, and the young and they say Yapsayote, they law and taken, Tandasu Samlutol Babiate.
So understanding, of mind and about mind is not something that you can do with the external object. You won't be able to do that by explaining some external object and then trying to understand the mind. It's not it's not a proper way to understand the mind itself. Understanding of the mind and consciousness, the understanding must come within the mind itself, reflecting, contemplating. And for this, there's we can say two way. The first one is, observing or watching one's own mind, your own kind of mind. And secondly, then, looking into the scriptures, how the scriptures and text interpret and, explains the nature or aspect of the mind or consciousness. And maybe so yeah, just asking any questions. Through questions, if he can answer, he'll be happy. If he can't, then nothing much to do. Okay, question here. Let's...
You have awareness and attention. Can Geshe differentiate those two? In my meditation, I place 100% of my attention on breath. And that creates a non-conceptual state. So I don't seem to need to differentiate and make distinctions because that's conceptual.
Awareness like that. Session Lola awareness and Gusher. That Lord was Sheba Harinago. Then just did any of young as the digital attention as well. Attention on that journal Yila Cheba in the Miguel Zig the Devan Tonache Shora. The Nibal Keva Hario Relado. The Korang in Yongwegi, Tonishana, Namju Korang Gom that Gom Chiro Chigora. They should go get it about Miguel Gaza Miguel Tesna and Decabla Halore. Semgi Namdo Mevalore. The one mewa chadung adoch. The thing is, yawa kande chawre lagdo. Sheba da yila sheba lawre.
Tanda wom ya tu ngala ngazu ge tangpo ngazu karzu warda soso ge semde chi ngoyin zin zwa. Salpo chi ngoyin zin chigwa chigre. Ta tela temba tenga kache shigoro ko semde gewe chola tijudu ne tuyagi samlote tangora. Ta sem korangla tsawe ngazu samlo nala chige da minda gewe chodan megewe chodan kari ina ko korsi bachire. Kaangla komba che shuk che ndugo na ngazu tegi chode shuk maa chige samlo na maa koreji ko rising di chade. Ta ima ina nga te nane ngazu megewe chola tsawe ge komba shuk jimbo ta 남비중의 제반에 이와 도마 매반이다 지 미기 초 경장로 검대가 대기 현진이 단대 차라 임바이나 미기 초대 정화 매바 고치 매장은 된데라 때문에 버지는 도서 섬레나라다 코로야지 용 레징 용거로 다 대조강가 까네 하나 곰 해야 되게 미기위 초기 섬로 거르게나 대가니 개위 초라 바셈 내야데 지고라
Mm.
대 내야기 탑시 지도라 담보 셈 거란데 에 모인종 대 개위기 셈라 개셈기 거 유래잖아 유래데 탑시래 대 유래 탑시라 담보 셈 거랑 지지라 템바테야데 단다 곰기 곰바 담보다 마찬가야 고 리바직 차대로
Mm.
셈 지지기든 내야데 지네 급도라 담보 셈 지질라 내지디 셈 개위기 셈지 노이종 다 개위 셈지 노이종네 대기 때도 다가랑 셈디 개셈 코랑이 때도 네투야 가져 도두게 다 대단히도 매기위 셈 거르기 여반은 때라 den시기다 바이오게 아니디 담보 시징이 잘하지도 개셈 네데베 가도라 매기위 셈 거르기 냠도 용이도 민도 그때 거르 연구 여반은 딘디기 밑에라네 den시 센세도라 양겨 매기위 셈 딘디 민도 디 매기위 셈 레샤 모터버진 매기위 셈 레샤 이 용민도 선 당겨랑 자기 양 셈데들은 내야들라 den시 된지고라 시징이 잘하지도 시진제야데 샘데 개회 샘린도 메기 샘린도 가족이 지자사기 샘지어라데 개회 샘린도 메기 샘린도 고 제바적인 스타트적인 지어라 내가 시진제와 시진이 잘하지도 가족 개회 샘을 내대바나 때 바로라 메기 샘양 손주용 활용도 민도 내가 연구에나 때 마가야 가죽은들라 den시도라 다 den시 양결 개회 샘 거를 자도근들 인디
Sheba the ila sheba la ore ta.
단당 가족이 시바자데다 곰기 가족이 den신이데 자위게 시바임바 찍바레스 시바임바 니가라 시바레 찍바레데 다 단다 시비게 남자 망부지 채운 거라 단다 오늘 예와 채운 거라 어때는 그 단다 den시자데 시비게 예라지 여면은 예와지 체주지 됐어
Nice.
시바지리 자위게 담보 망지기 자위게 지지기자 다 콜라에 다 개회선다 매개회선다 지 루마땡기 셈제 어떤데기 다지 예와미라 망보지 용원 다 때는 좀 무슨세도 또 당게 디나라 루리든데 이든나라 무슨세하다 또바세하다 되니 제시하다 그래서 그 예와를 때 이들레스
Nice. When we do meditation, the first thing in meditation process is able to identify clearly what is the mind itself, knowing the mind itself, which does the meditation. And then, in the meditation, when you are trying to concentrate, what you're doing is trying to concentrate or bring mind focused on what we call, the virtuous, object or focal object, and then try to keep your attention or mindfulness as long as you can. And because when you are sitting and doing meditation, trying to maintain your attention, your mind, can bring up all kinds of, thoughts, and it does that from Buddhist point of view because of especially, mostly non-virtuous, because of our familiarity from the since time beginning less with the non-virtuous thoughts comes immediately. And so when you're in the process, you are trying to keep focus, you're maintaining attention. At the same time, you're kind of blocking intentionally those virtuous thoughts that are coming up. So that's happening in the meditation. And you need to make an effort to maintain that single pointedness on your object of the observation. And so in the process, the first thing is kind of, understanding what mind is and what it is doing when you are sitting and doing meditation. And obviously here comes, like calm abiding meditation, ability to focus and keep your mind on one object that you are trying to, concentrate on, the placement of the mind. And when we say placement of the mind, usually in the meditation, that placement of the mind, the focal object is, again, something virtuous, and then you are doing your best to kind of, keep focus on that object as long as you can. And again, in the process, as I said earlier, pops up all kind of thoughts. And then introspection does kind of, spying thing. And then introspection, if found something, then mindfulness kind of comes up and brings back to the, takes mind back to the object of observation. And so that's the process going on, in the meditation. Now the difference here, awareness and attention, the word that you use. Awareness, as we saw in the text, awareness, mind, consciousness is something kind of, we can say, something kind of foundation, the basis, and the awareness is just a part of it. It's a part of it, and both, awareness and attention, both by nature, they are consciousness, both are consciousness, but, the awareness and consciousness and mind is kind of, big or universal, and then attention is a part of it. So therefore, when we study mind, we have a primary mind, and then, the secondary mind, and different classifications. So, with the the primary mind as a foundational basis, then we have mind which is, virtuous, non-virtuous, neutral, and then we can have, according to, what we are sitting here, direct perception, subsequent, so it has could have many different kind of small parts or branch. So one is primary and one is, you can say, part.
And breath is a neutral object, right? It's not a virtuous or a non-virtuous. Breath is just neutral, right?
자위 우대 고 샘제 가자 말하니 샘 거라는 저거 말아. 롱지 고 롱지래 되로. 말다다 롱 거란 게 뭐지요라. 롱 거란 게 뭐데 주래. 주래라. 당 아주게 곰게도 당보 우라디 세야지요라. 우게 당가 세야지요라. 대고 자위게 샘 거란 지지를 내야기 타발람지래서. 샘 미바지기 된도 내야라 타발람 담이다 요리. 우기 돈에 디 타발람들 템바이나 우데고 나운도 고야다 칠라 유야다 되게 당갈랐더니 나게 가라 자위게 샘지요라. 샘지요라. 때 샘데 거라 내사지기 된도 내야기 고 타발람지 자고 그러면도 우들들은 우거란 샘나 시비 가자 말이지.
When we use, breath as an object of the observation in the meditation, the breath itself or air itself is a form, and we don't, usually form kind of categorized into virtuous, non-virtuous, neutral. It's a form, and then in order to kind of concentrate, to help our mind bring into single pointedness, we use all kind of things, including breath. We use breath as a method or ways to kind of concentrate or bring or, focus our mind.
남중 가족의 개와다 미개와 롱마텐스 가자 시도라 10인 남자들라 이와치니 시고.
Usually when we categorize, virtuous, non-virtuous, neutral, we usually categorize that within, consciousness. Yeah.
Does a moment of mind or consciousness only exist when there is also that awareness of something?
저기 셰베기 균이로 셰베기 균데 네디 남주 셰바 요약을 니고 알아도
시바 예베칼 니고 알아서.
셰바를 내다 셈 요바가 나오랬다. 로릭 바 셰바 숨으로. 디 딘데 요백을 내는 거 저기다 셰바 깨지 마셔라. 원디 견조 숨 인 셰바 요약을 아니 셰바 깨지 마도 요로 알아도. 깨지 마 야만 거를 퍼줘 셰나 깨지 마 요바디 요단데라고 요백을 아니 셈도 요로 왔어. 셰바도 요로 왔어.
또 가족에 일단 가사질을 찾아보면 셰베기 때 윤지요라. 다윗이 가족이 셰베 윤데 균이 가야 균이 가야 단지야 균이 요 말이지 거래. 그거 거기 남 셰베기 남자들라 림바 타라기 요 망고지 자 초거래. 자 자구어라. 마도 타락의 개발마도 쉐바균이 쉐백의 윤제는 균이 가야 말이 남신 아주 시비 제발 시두건 미 시구이ben 내가 되나야 거기 쉐백 가지고 단단하란 쪽에 생기 윤지어라. 대 윤균은 가고 말이죠. 아주 미 저번 균에 시비 전에 저번 경가 매점에 차도 그래 거기 자와강가 냠도 그래 냠도 그래 쉐백의 윤제데 균이 매와 차고 말이죠.
Yes. When we talk about ordinary people's consciousness or moment, consciousness, momentary consciousness, it is considered that consciousness never cease. Consciousness never get, dismantle, or, consciousness is always there. And however, we talk about subtle and grosser, coarse level of consciousness. And even at the time of death, the body is incapable of maintaining its function, and therefore, get destroyed or dismantled. But the consciousness continues. There's a continuity of consciousness, a moment of consciousness. It stays continuously.
So it's not broken down moment by moment.
다들 그런 저러다 쉐베 균저로 균디다 moment by moment 다 가는
지 타라도에서 그래
저저저기라고서 when you say moment by moment, are you saying impermanent?
Sort of like dominoes. Like
like
a consciousness would exist where you have an awareness of an object for a moment, and then it, that awareness ends. Well, does that not end? I thought it ended.
쉐베 균이라고 쉐베 균.
어다
쉐베 균 중에서는 균디 잠샤그라 내 균신 무슨 균 가로 다 잘라진다 잘라지
그 깨지기 가자 시고로
깨짐
그런 게 뭐지요로 나 새벽에 뭐데 다 깨지라 뜻 막고 누구 알았어 그 깨지라 그 지기 가자 시고로 다 미다베 가자 시고로 미다베 가자 시인데 가서 깨지는 지도 그래서 말아서 시기 조보라 바대서 갑둘라 헛 사는 가지고 남자 타베나 그 지구여 바다 된데기 진교와 두고여 바다 가서 하고 두고 말때 이나 로주 중에게 바라라도 스타바이나 가서 두고들라 그 교와지 두고여 바데 단나가란 좀 원두고 하고 두고라 그때 내진기 새벽이 윤대라양 그 깨지기다 교와 두고랬어 이나양 깨지기 교와 두지 거기 윤지 매바차 양윤 사바질래요 가자 말때 말했어 right.
So when we talk strictly from the consciousness itself, its own aspect nature, it goes continuously, and then there's a moment to moment, and from the consciousness perspective, continuity is there. Continuity is there, and we can call it kind of momentary changing, and one aspect of one nature, arises and then ceases. But in the process, the consciousness itself kind of goes continuously, and just like our physical body, when we look at the physical body, immediately we can't tell, it's kind of aging process. But after 10, 15 years, we see but that doesn't mean that there's no, momentary changes happening on the body. It is happening. However, we are not able to kind of perceive it immediately. Same with the kind of mind. It is a momentary, and there is a kind of, continuity there. And each, the moment of the continuity is something new, it's not the same as what was past. So there is a continuity. Yes. There's continuity is there, but the aspect of nature is different. It changes.
So when you have the consciousness observing the consciousness, does that almost seems like it would require a second consciousness to observe that original consciousness, which would change it and move on.
Then the Quran did a read over. Are you talking about self-knower or it's called self-cognizer? Okay. The Quran tells in the end, Shabajing is going to and going to do like the Jabro Shabajing Yoga Chisamarello. Then read over.
어때 다 코랑기 답변에 쉐바데 아주 라리즈 가자 쉐도라 가르쳐 거잖아. 쉐바데 하고겐 수요레지 거라. 쉐바데 코랑 쉐베 뭐 된디지 마다 간디스 하고 그래 수요하고 그래지 되나 다 코랑이 된도 코랑 코랑 하고에게 고인기 제가 양 쉐바 전지 이어레지 가자 되시고 라리 가자 되시고 그러데 단다 어니 제니 용그래로. 디 로리 둔나라데 발제 연구기래 원이 라리까지 세고라 다 거기 배나 윤데 다 그징아마다 치마니 바로라 개발은 누구요 바다 교환 누구요 바 예바데 간디세 하고 그래서는데 미다바인 비금살라 깨지깨지 란지 베라진 제임베 그 두지기 주인 비차네 자베기로 배나 단다디 주다 셰발 데미두제자 숨보텔라 두지기 추이제 거래 주제네 단 나라 주볼에 찾아봐네 주벽이 강바다 라바다 되도 그가 주지 주대자 네 난기 셰바데 셰베 남자라자 네 다 딘디게 다 왕봉가나데 예라 차장 상견이 디질라 강사아제지 요라 호텔 강사아제데 데미두제자들 자니테 대저게 강가 뭐 가래서는 그 미다베 렌진진 깨지깨지라 대구메바 직두고요바 라지진 비차네 고 김전대기 자고 그래서
텐즈르도 메다볼데 수셰바 데멘디 좀 걸라네. When you ask, you were saying, are you asking whether there's a consciousness that knows the consciousness momentariness, so if there's a consciousness behind consciousness. So here we are talking about there is probably it will come later in the text, it's called self-cognizer or self-knower, consciousness behind consciousness. And when we talk about consciousness and understanding its momentariness, the previous moment, next moment, how do we understand, that consciousness is a momentariness? We understand that through the reason of impermanent, impermanent, and we understand that through the reason of what we call composite phenomena. So that's how we understand the impermanence or momentariness of the consciousness. Usually we categorize, all phenomena into form, consciousness, non-composite phenomena. All of these three, when we talk about form, example would be our aggregate, this body with hands and consciousness, internal, any type of consciousness, and non-composite phenomena, a person with 5 aggregates. All of these are impermanent. So through kind of impermanence, we know, or non-composite phenomena nature, by nature or by that, reason, we know that consciousness is momentary. But, self-cognizer, self-knower, that's a whole another topic that we'll talk later. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm wondering if it acts as the act of the consciousness observing itself acts as a cause for consciousness. Yeah, and if there kind of is an infinite regress that
melong pejar go ra pena melong la kare Khechok kare yorjana melong gi ene chi gi zu nga zo ge dongba te zo kanga sharto bu yore ene melong gi yavlo de la ta chi me ba ne shell rang ro yavlo de ju cho ba na ko la Quran shell imba ka ji la du sta de la nga zo ge zu nyen ko na lo la shargu yo ba chi 아주 지로가 주년지요라. 그 멜롱 나로라 여버서지 차르고라. 셀 셀라되게 나로라 입서지. 어디 멜롱을 빼잔 저거라 리제.
Usually, use example for the self-knower, self-cognizer mirror. In a mirror, although if you look mirror without, I mean, the differentiating mirror, if first, it's a glass, when we look through the glass, we can see the other side. But you apply something, at the back of that glass and it becomes a mirror, then mirror has a capability to reflect images within that mirror. So, we use that as an example of self-cognizer. Kurang samdan on the song because Sheba Chunaro, Sheba de Koran Juado, the Gajimang, the Jablolian Sheba Shembajik, Hapong Edos, the Tang Edos.
The Yavlola Sheba, Taku Yun Chimatizora. Yun Kaji Chimatizora. Yavatizora.
Gajimano, Sheba and Gajima Yin and the Drodewara. The Hapong Jablo Sheba Tangegi, or let the Gunish, the Dugudun, the Jablo Dating is Sheba Shembajiki. You're not big to on the inside and get the good word. The Rangrid of Russia.
That Koi, that Kaji Kurang Sheba de Sheba in Bahagonian de la Rari to Madoja Sayoman, Kurang Yavla Kurang Sheba de Sheba in Bahagonian Jora. They Rari the Jaguar. That Ko Kaji Kajin in Guru Yovade, Kurang Duji in Birai Yumzan Mitaba. Dordana Mitaba Yumzani, who Kaji and Dodo Yovate.
So, consciousness being momentary, that it changes from moment to moment. If there is something that knows that, then in the text we find this, self-knower, self-cognizer. But consciousness being momentary and being impermanence, momentary and impermanence, we understand that through the reasoning of impermanence or composite phenomena.
Tapena Sheba Kaji Tambo Jija, Niba Jija, Roan. Ta Kaji Tambo than Niba Jivana, Tambo Kaji Tambo the Nekala Imba Che, Ta Kogi Tito the Zor to the La Kaji Tambi Tito the Zor to the La Kaji Niba the Diga Legiroda. Those Diga Lediola, they Kaji Niba the Diga Lening Hagonian de la Korang Kaji Nibi Yavlola Koran Hagoni Shebachi. Kaji Tambola, Kaji Tambo Korang it into Rariji. Ta Kajinivala, Kajiniva Korangi tendo, Koran Hagonin Raji, Duzuma, Rari de Lion, Kaji Tambo, Sheba Kaji Tambo Nibadi, Najin Yun Najin, Rari de Lion, Kuranta Najin Kaji Tambo Niba, Yun Chipachian, Sheba Hagonin. Oh, Nato Kuni Tumundo, Shebachi, Rari Jira. They Yoma, Kazashego. Tumudu Niga Hago Tunyan Gita, Rari Chik Shepachi, Kaja de Shego Manes.
So within the, self-cognizer or self-knower interpretation, if you look closely, there's a first moment of consciousness. There's a second moment of consciousness. So self-cognizer, there is a self-cognizer that cognizes, the first moment of consciousness. And when first moment kind of cease to exist, it is replaced by the second moment of consciousness. And then there's another, self-cognizer that cognizes the second cognizer. So, they use that self-cognizer in the momentary, and they don't believe in, something kind of self-cognizer that understands, all in a one kind of moment. Again, they go it by moment.
So they rise together.
And the gauging madi, sharing is on Yam sharing go to Caging mada rangri de la gusere.
Hotere, Shebakurang Gurdudala, Rari de Tarangon Gurdu.
So,
Yamdures.
in that sense, yes, the consciousness arising and the self-cognizer arising has to be at the same time.
Shebakanda Kaimbana, Kurang into the Kurang Hakuning Gita, Rari Yam the Yerban. The Melong La Pejara, Melong La Chilo Mazunian.
Rani doing it.
Melong Nala Evisori, Zunian Chick, Melong and Nala Evisori Sharido. What then is Melong Yeva, Mazu Melong Savena, Melong Nala de Zunian de Legore, Mazu Melong La Masavina, Melong Nalangazu Zunian de Letugomara.
Chidan Rani doing it.
Chidan Rari or Rari dogging it, Rari Jaya de Tuesday. That the Tutagi would Rari do into it, good to take Midai.
So, just same as looking at the mirror. As soon as you look in the mirror, you have image in the mirror. If you are away from the mirror, there's no image in the mirror. So that's a simultaneously. But again, we are talking strictly from the philosophical point of view that asserts self-cognizer, whole interpretation, those who don't assert, that those who don't believe in or interpret the existence of self-cognizer, so that's a whole other thing, which school interprets, this assertion or not. Matt, you have a question?
I'm gonna have to think on more because I don't know how to frame it.
Okay.
Like. So the deeper level of awareness, is it separate from bodhicitta, or is bodhicitta a realization that has to be cultivated separately? And what I mean is that, is it possible that someone can have a really deep level of concentration, but then their ethics and bodhicitta aren't there?
Okay.
So that when they, like, on the cushion during the meditation session, they have this deep concentration, but then off the cushion in post meditation, the force of their previous negativities is such that, like, the bodhicitta and the ethics have not manifested yet. Thereupon.
그런 저 대셔 더 저 탄다 딱다 세부 지단 시마 선사 네 지단데 저 도스데 셰바 타모쇼로 셰바 타모디 예외 qabla 아니 chanju게 심 요래 요마rel도 야무나 데르셔 베시나 다 냠샤라오레 냠샤가로 chanju게 심데 요체 아니 냠샤래 야 랑스스나 아니 슈골다 아니 chanju심데 메와 차로데 근데 요래로 chanju심에는 동바에는 가는 타모쇼로 다지 가래 사가르 토베네게
답변은 사토되긴 전주 세바서도 없이 임바이나로 냠자래 내가블 임바이나 전주기 셈이 예 바래 냠자래 랑바이나 전주기 셈 kin dorgo amarko mewa chago amares 냠자래 랑스디 냠자 텔레 돈에다 지기 원보수 젬바테 저기다 유라 론체디 지고라
no
딘디 갑들라 임바이나 낭기 장주기 샘 나면 건 도르두고 아마 봄 냠자 유베 가도 일라나 장주기 산라 제지도 지고래 냠자레 랑도 등알라 장주기 샘다 라바 여러잖아 에 가버레 문주더라 라방어도 좋아 냠자레 랑도 때메바 차도 냠자레 자도라 장주기 샘 샘 라바고 문주도 제도고 이나 das thara ga jesendala da nyamja le launde di janju gi samde thayengor jurjugor ma to raba dangi nyamja na jing gi raba di da ngun de to go ma kare chi gi ombe gi di chi mi gi da chilo gi da zu raba de to ngala semte gi ro onde
사도 chanju 심 사도 마임벨라
te soto mai bala chi pare na
시벌
oh nyam ja thu gi na tan namjing yom la kin nga zo komdi me ta genji ta nga zo da imbai na ta kala ka bshe boro ta nyamja le lang di nga zo gi janju gi sam tamoji gi la tamode de tu mi tu za de ka bore ina janju sebe domba ze ji ro de yang ka ga re ko ka je she dombe gi yun ze de ji ro de ko ka ne da so lo ka ma to
a bodhisattva who attained ground or level or any bodhisattva in that sense, any bodhisattva they don't separate from bodhicitta regardless whether they're in a deep meditation or whether they're in a aftermath. So at the deep meditation, or what we call meditative equipoise, at that stage, the bodhicitta is manifested. It's more kind of, we can say, manifested level. But aftermath, when we say aftermath arising from meditation and when you're engaging in kind of, activities relating with any sense organ, then that bodhicitta becomes much subtler, but it is still there. It has to be there. So in a way, kind of the nature of or the intensity of the bodhicitta changes And but somebody who has no kind of actual experience of bodhicitta like us, then it would be extremely difficult. We would be kind of have maybe in a deep meditative equipoise some kind of experience, but then after post meditative, we just go back to normal, kind of state without any sort of influence or power of bodhicitta. But talking about bodhicitta vows, that is completely different thing. How it stays, or kind of in the different circumstances.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ove shingang su pendan dewa malu jungwe ne chere sewa tenzin gyatso yi shabe side kardo tengyuro che jaba bawe jidara kemba dan kondo sangbo ndeyan deje ben deda kunje jesu andalo jin gyawa deda tamje rabdo mo kusumu shabe gyawa tamje yi ngowa kanla chodo ngakwa den da shin gebe tsawa dege gyan zangbo jeje rabdo ngor yi chanjo semjo rembo je mage banam gegyo je gewa nyamba mebara yang kone gondo pewar shu donye tawa rembo je mage banam gegyo je gewa nyamba mebara yang kone gondo pewar shu. In the land encircled by snow-white mountains, the source of all happiness and benefit, flows near person, generosity, Tenzin Gyatso remain until samsara ends. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and Samandabhata too, so now I dedicate these merits to train and follow in their footsteps. As all the victorious Buddhas of the past, present, and future praise dedication as supreme, so now I too dedicate these sources of my merit for all beings to perfect good actions. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. May the supreme jewel view of emptiness that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more.
Thank you.